Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. Luc Zoratto, welcome to the podcast, dude. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Hey, Jeremy. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. So you've got a very unique and inspirational story that I think a lot of people are going to love to hear, and a lot of people are probably going to resonate with it. So do you kind of want to just give us like a broad overview of your story, like the message you've been putting out, and then we'll kind of dive into all that stuff? Yeah,
absolutely. So just in a nutshell, I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I identify today as a sober athlete, sober marathon runner, sober dad, sober husband, and I'm super proud of that identity that I'm taking on. And it's been a bit of a journey to get to kind of where I am. I've had a lot of struggle with alcohol use disorder sort of resonate with me, and I made a lot of changes. I'll be coming up to 7 years sober in January, 7 years. So it's been a long time, and it's been honestly the best thing that I've ever done for myself. So I became super passionate to share my story, to be more open and transparent about that, to hopefully impact a couple people along the way, to show them that, hey, it's not this doom and gloom life that maybe a lot of people think that I thought was, for sure. And more importantly than that, it's I never identified with being an alcoholic. Like, I never drank every day. So I know there's so much to be had, so much benefit to be had with so many people, not just those who quote unquote, are alcoholics or drink every day. There's a lot of positive. So yeah, that's my story quickly. The running has become a huge passion for me. I kind of picked up running on my journey. And as you know, Jeremy, right, running is the best thing ever, right? For your mind, your body, and everything. So I'm really excited to be here and to dive into it a little bit more.
Dude, I love that, man. Such a wild story. You said 15 years of alcohol abuse disorder?
Yeah.
Or alcohol use disorder. Yeah. Where did all that start? So 15 years ago would have been what, like 2005-ish, 2003?
Yeah, so a bit about my background. My dad's from Italy, so I'm half Italian and half French Canadian. And I just say that because, there's just such a culture. I grew up with a culture that, loved to celebrate with alcohol, alcohol at dinner pretty much every night with a glass of wine. So I was exposed to it at a young age. My Italian grandfather, used to make homemade wine. So, took a lot of pride in that. So I was exposed to it, really, really young. I had probably my first glass of wine with the family, probably like 10 or 11,
wow,
like something like that. So I was exposed to it, really early, and it was always with the family and stuff like that. And
what's your take before you go to that any further? I hear, like, obviously in the U.S., I'm not sure what it is in Canada. I think it's 19 in Canada, the legal drinking
19.
age. Here in the U.S. is 21, and I hear like this kind of like opposing theory that like in Europe or a place like Canada where the drinking age is lower, or it's more like socially acceptable to drink at a younger age. Like in Europe, I believe you can legally drink younger than before you can even drive a car. And I've heard that like that's a better way to wean you into it, because it kind of makes sense. I'll try and keep this short. I want to let you talk too, but like that people in the U.S., like, they learn how to drive a car, they do all these things, and then they can drink. And so it's like they want what we can't have, right? And so when you are withheld from this thing for so long, then you turn 21, you just go on this like binge for years and years. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I honestly think, even though my story is that I kind of was exposed to it young, I believe that that's probably the healthier, better way, because when you do, go away for school, I went away for university. It wasn't new to me, right? I was around alcohol a lot, so it wasn't like, oh, can't wait to try this. Right. I had been exposed to it, and I had a lot of friends that maybe, didn't drink much in high school, or it was just, their parents were a lot more strict with that kind of stuff. So when they were out, it was like more extreme. But for me, it was more of a gradual thing. It was like, it was kind of, I had different phases kind of in my drinking career, I call it. At the beginning, I guess, was to fit in, right? You're in your, early high school, you're just trying to fit in with everyone else. So it was kind of a bit of that. And then I guess in university, it was more around, I developed this like character. I love to, be kind of the goofy guy, fun guy. So I was very, animated at different things. And then my character or my identity was around being that kind of goofy guy, that loud, outspoken guy, a bit arrogant, a little cocky. So that was the kind of role that I thought I had to be all the time. And I couldn't do that role sober. Like there's no way I could, be that role sober. So it was just like, I just constantly would fit myself into that role. And I think it really, to simplify it, was because I was so worried about what other people thought about me.
So there's like a kind of an insecurity of like
100%.
Okay, this is how I can be accepted by people, is to be the funny guy.
100%. I masked it a lot. And it was, I had major social anxiety, actually. If you just net it out, I would get very anxious with social situations, because I wanted people to like me, and I thought I had to be like so extra to get attention or to have people like me. And then once I kind of like I kind of enjoyed that, right? And then it was like I had to be that all the time.
Where do you think that comes from? Like that initial, do you think it just stems from like, I just want to be accepted? Do you think it could root back to like either like home life growing up, like with parents and family and stuff like that?
I think there's definitely a part of that, but for me, that wasn't the case. Like for me, it wasn't the case. I had, two amazing parents, loved me. My brother and I gave us so much love, so many opportunities, so much attention. So I wouldn't say for me personally, it was because of that, but I could see that definitely playing into it. I just like to have fun, and I just didn't know how to stop. That was it. It's like I could get going, and then once I was like into the groove or having a few drinks, it's like, why would I want to stop after a few drinks, right? Like, why would I want to stop? And after university, like, I came back home, started working full time, moved out on my own. I found that, started working full time, started making some money. It's like, hey, Luke, it's not that bad. Like, you still have a job, you're still holding it together. Yeah, you'll go pretty hard on the weekend, but come Monday, I was showing up to work. It wasn't impacting my work a ton. I mean, I'm sure it was, but nobody knew that I was really kind of having these sometimes 24-hour benders. So it was interesting, and that's why it's like I'm so excited to be talking to you, Jeremy, and others, is that I want to share my story because it's not one that I resonate with hearing, and I didn't hear too much about, where a lot of the stories I hear, people like hit rock bottom or really had things pretty deep into the, different things. Like, and, I would listen and be like, I don't really resonate with that. And that's not really, but for me, it was like, I was very high functioning. Like I was very high functioning. So that's why I think it's important to just destigmatize this thing and talk more openly, because I really feel that, people can benefit from going alcohol free. And I'm not saying like I'm pushing sobriety on everybody. I'm not. It's very an individual thing. And I have nothing against alcohol. Like my wife, she drinks. My family, my brother, my best friends, 99% of them drink. But I just know for me that this is the best thing for sure.
Did anybody ever call you out and be like, dude, are you drinking on the job? Or like, are you out driving around while you're drunk right now? Did anybody ever call you out?
No, because I wasn't really doing that. I would party pretty hard on the weekends, but I would always get my act together. Like I never showed up to work, well, I was definitely hungover, absolutely huge cloud. But I wouldn't, I wasn't intoxicated showing up to work. I never did that. So I wasn't that bad, but at the same time, like, just being honest here, it's, when I was living on my own, I did get it, introduced into, drugs, and that definitely accelerated things for me. My drug of choice was cocaine, and it was, I felt on top of the world when I would do that. And that's when the drinks never became enough. A couple of beers with the guys was never enough anymore. So it was always this next best thing. And once I got introduced to that, things really accelerated. Like they got harder for me to stop, and it was like I couldn't just have 2 or 3 beers anymore. It's like that wasn't enough.
Dang. So you would mix, like, would you start out with a couple drinks and be like, oh, I need more, and then
Yeah.
and that's when the cocaine would come in?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And then you just feel, then you're just kind of, you're doing things that you normally wouldn't do. You're saying things you normally wouldn't say. And it wasn't a good look for me. And it created a lot of, shame and guilt and regret and a lot of different emotions for sure. I was, naturally hurting people that were closest to me. I had a long girlfriend, now my wife, who was kind of with me through all those struggles, and I put her through a lot. And the other thing too is I hid it from a lot of people, so they didn't know how bad it was, right? So when I first was on this sober journey, like a lot of my friends were like, why? Like, what's wrong? Like, why? You don't have a problem. Like, you're not really drinking much more than me. Like, so, but because I was really good at hiding it. I was really good at like showing up on, like I said, on Monday, totally fine. Or, I was good at hiding it, and I hid it through, my career. I had a good career, I had my own place, all these things. Like, you don't look like you're struggling with alcohol. So
That's hard to justify quitting then, because if nobody else can notice it or recognize it except for you,
yeah.
And especially if you say you want to quit, people are like almost encouraging you to not quit because it's like you don't have a problem. That's got to be really hard to actually get yourself to quit then, right?
It was tough. It was very tough. It was very difficult. And as a matter of fact, for 5 years of my sobriety, I was ashamed of it, and I never talked about it. So most people didn't know I was actually, quote unquote, not drinking, not using, because I would just hide it. I was ashamed
of being sober.
I was in the
wow.
sober closet. I was totally ashamed because I thought it was like a weakness. So outside of like my girlfriend, my family, close friends, they knew, but like, colleagues and friends of friends and extended circles, they had no clue. Clearly I wasn't as, animated as I was, but I found like I would always make excuses why I wasn't drinking. I'd always play it down, and I did that for 5 years. I did that for 5 years, and it was tough to do that, because I felt like I just felt like, I was being myself, but I was hiding a part of myself.
Yeah, dude, I think that's honestly one of the most important conversations that like people rarely have is like it's the fact that alcohol is so socially accepted that if you don't drink, if you're sober, you're like the outcast. You're questioned of like, wait, you don't drink? What's wrong with you? It's like it blows my mind that like, I mean, I've basically quit drinking. I'll have like a beer every like 4 months maybe. It's like very very rare.
Yeah.
And like if I go out to dinner with friends and stuff and I don't drink, it's like they literally ask like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know. It's so crazy. Like even this guy I coach for running, he has like this job that's like very social, political, all this stuff, and he doesn't want to drink anymore, but he's like, I kind of have to for my job. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if I want to fit in with my colleagues and my bosses and managers and all this stuff, like I kind of have to like go to these social events and drink and partake in all this. And I'm like, dude, it's just so unhealthy that society pushes that on people.
It's so true. It's so true. I can relate to that, and congratulations too. I mean, I'm not surprised to see that you don't drink much, because all you're doing with your training and so many different things, it'd be tough. I mean, it's not impossible, but yeah, I mean, it's like the only drug you need to justify not using, and then the only drug is like you get judged if you use too much.
Yeah.
So you use too much, you're bad, and if you don't use, you're bad. So it's like, how are you accepted? Is it like the perfect amount? Is that what, like, so it's interesting that you need to justify not using something that's not really good for you if you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's so crazy. I don't know where it comes back to or where like this all originated, but somewhere in society everybody's just like, oh, we all drink alcohol. You can't, like you said, you can't drink too much, otherwise you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But you have to drink at least a little bit, otherwise you're a weirdo or something.
Exactly.
Like, it's so crazy. How do you approach it now? Like if you go out to dinner with friends or social events and stuff, how do you approach it?
Oh, it's very simple. It's very simple. Like I just don't drink, right? I don't flip flop with that answer, and it's taking me a long time to do that because like I said, for my first 5 years in the sober closet, I make excuses. I'm on medication. Love that one. I'm on medication. I'm on a cleanse. I'm on a detox. I would just make up things, and I found that it was easy, but it worked. So it worked. That's the important thing. It worked. But now it's like I'm so open and transparent with my story, and I'm proud of myself for this journey, and it's like I'm really like grateful for that for myself, and it's like be proud, because I had carried so much shame around it for so long. So it's now it's like I don't drink it, and it's like funny. I love talking about it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm so open about it. It's like my Instagram is very open about it. I'm doing alcohol-free life coaching now. Like I'm all in on this space, and it's because I know the impact that this can have on someone's life. And that when something becomes like you really excited about it, it's the greatest thing to be kind of doing that, on a regular basis.
I love that, man. What do people say? I'm sure you still get the same response, like if you go out to dinner, if you're with friends and stuff. Like, do people still say stuff like maybe it's somebody you don't know and you're out to like a work dinner or something? Do people still say stuff like, "Oh, why aren't you drinking?"
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Why aren't you drinking? You can have one. Like, it's not that bad, right? Like, we can have one. We'll shut it down early. Like, but it's like, at first I would like just go into like this oversharing mode where I was just like, I felt like I had to, ease the tension, because when you say you don't drink, naturally people will be like, well, I only drink on the weekends. Like, they justify their drinking. It's a bit it can be, not all the time, but it can be a bit awkward. So I was always trying to like silence that awkwardness. So I would just overshare, and I basically tell my life story in like 2 minutes. And then it was like, why did I do that? Like, why did I do that? I don't need to do that. So that was hard. That was because I loved, making, people kind of, like, I want people to like me. So I wanted to ease that tension. But now it's like, no, I just less is more. And I just say things like, I don't drink. And then why? It's like, because I am much happier and I'm much better when I don't drink. And it's just, and if they go again, and I love simplifying this, Jeremy, and I've said this a lot, is I'm allergic to alcohol. It's just that simple. It's like I'm allergic. If I was allergic to peanut butter, would I want to have a little bit of peanut butter? No, it would give me hives. I would need an EpiPen, and I wouldn't have peanut butter. So that's how I kind of look at alcohol for me. And I feel like just such a simple way to say that, such a simple way for my mind to process that. It's really, it's really helped me, and I kind of like to joke around about it a bit, make it a bit more lighthearted.
I love that. Dude, I might have to steal that one. I'm allergic to alcohol. Dude, I mean, in a way, when you think about it, I think we all are. Like, I would love to hear somebody argue that alcohol is good for you, like physically, mentally, in any capacity. Because as far as I know, there's no benefits to it other than like the social. Like, it brings you, and it brings more energy and animation out of you, I guess. But besides that, like, I don't know any benefits.
There are probably next to no benefits. I'm sure we've all heard Huberman's podcast. Did you hear that one where he talks about alcohol?
I've heard snippets of it.
So he was basically like, that's a really, really interesting podcast. I love his like science methodology behind everything. And he's talking about cortisol, which is like the release, like a bad hormone that gets released, right? And it causes stress.
Yep.
He said people who drink even casually, like a couple of drinks a week, 2 to 3 drinks a week, at baseline, they have more stress than people who don't drink at all.
Wow.
Which I thought was a very interesting little study. So people, right, who are drinking a few times a week, well, a lot of people, right, not everyone has an issue or problem with alcohol. At baseline, when they're not drinking, their stress level is a little higher. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think everything goes up. I would imagine, like, your sleep gets messed up, so you're probably more tired, more fatigued. If you exercise, your recovery is probably not as fast because of the sleep. And it's just, I mean, alcohol, I believe, like, when it enters into your body, it just turns straight into sugar, right? That's how the body processes it. Yeah. So it's like, we know the effects of sugar, and it's dude, it's a poison in my opinion. That's why I stay away from it.
It is, and I want to be like, sometimes I'm a little careful. I don't want to sound too preachy about alcohol, because like I have nothing against it. I really do. I have nothing against it, and I want people to enjoy as they normally would around me. So but I know for myself, it's like, why, like, what's the risk reward? Like, what's the benefit, right? Okay, I could have a beer. I'm sure, like, I won't go off the rails after one or two beer. I'm sure I could do that, but it's like, what's the benefit that I'm going to get? Am I going to, and now today with just so many amazing alcohol-free options, like alcohol-free beer. I love
Yeah.
alcohol-free beer, and I could really put them back, especially in social situations, like, weddings or events or different things. Like, I'll have like 6 or 7 or 8, no problem, because I like the taste. I like
Right.
having something in my hand. That there's something social about having something in your hand, and I just feel so much more comfortable when I have a nice cold alcohol-free beer in my hand. Like, you would never tell I'm not drinking. And it
Yeah.
almost acts like a bit of a placebo. I feel a bit more relaxed, I'm not trying so hard, and I love the taste. So, like, why would I want to have a beer? Like, what's that going to do for me?
Yeah,
It's
that
going to
makes perfect
complicate things.
sense. It
Yeah.
is definitely a placebo for sure, because it's like it looks like a beer, it tastes like a beer, so it's like that. I wonder the science behind that, because it definitely has an effect on that. Yeah, I think there's kind of a movement. I feel like with the alcohol-free beverages too, like the what is it, athletic brewing, and I feel like every
Yep.
major beer company now has like their own version of non-alcoholic. So it's cool to see that. I think people are becoming more accepted. Even like if you go to a bar, a lot of times they'll have
Oh
some sort
yeah.
of non-alcoholic beverage.
So much of a shift has been happening in the last few years. And I think about those people who haven't been drinking for a long time. We hear those people, 20 years, 25 years. And I just, like, it's like, wow, to be able to do that, like, kind of back then when it wasn't as accepted, like, now you go anywhere, grocery stores, everywhere, there's alcohol free everywhere. Restaurants, bars, they're all serving it. So, it's made it a lot easier to kind of not drink, I find, the last, 5, 10 years.
Right.
So those people, those OGs that haven't been drinking for a long time, you just gotta have a lot of respect for what they've done. And whenever I meet those people, I'm just like, wow, so much respect for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. What did a typical day look like when you were like peak of the alcohol use disorder? Like, was it only on the weekends, or would you like go to work, come home, drink, go to work, come home, drink? What'd that
So
look
I
like?
never drank alone. Never drank alone. I never craved alcohol. I could go weeks at a time without alcohol. Like, I think I even did, like, just short of a month without any alcohol, which is, a really long time. But it's for me is when I would be around those social situations where I would have one or two, kind of like my peak. That it was rarely enough, right? Like, I played a lot of like men's league hockey, so after hockey we would have like a beer in the dressing room, then a beer in the parking lot, and I'd be fine. I'd drive home, no problem. You know, Nothing would accelerate. But if it was the right kind of environment, it was like a patio on a Saturday and it was a nice day, and we were having like a couple pitchers of beer, like, probably watch out. I'm gonna get into it. If there was a corporate event, at the time I worked at corporate for a large global company, so we did a lot of events and different things. So that's kind of brought out my dark side, because it was very accepted. It was kind of very accepted in the kind of the culture that I was in, right? The work hard, play hard mentality. I lived by that. I thought the harder I worked, the more successful I was, the more money I made, the more I deserved to unwind and let loose, because that's what I did. I worked hard. I took care of the business, my the things that are important, and now it's like, here's my reward. Now I deserve it.
That's like
And
the
that was
Wolf of Wall Street mentality.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And I did that. I did that for years.
Wow. So it's
And
always
I
a
thought,
social setting. Interesting. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, it was always a social setting for me. And I have a lot of different, different clients that I'm working with, that I'm helping, them find, their best self without alcohol. A lot of, I'm finding that I'm attracting, which is really cool, these high achievers, people who have the job, the career, they have the family. From the outside, they have everything, but they're struggling too, socially, or sometimes on their own coping. And it's easy to downplay it. Like, it's not that bad. Like, it's really not that bad. I'm still able to do all of these things, but it becomes a point where it's like, it's draining, coming back from a hangover, or just, maybe an embarrassing night or something you said or you did you didn't really mean to do, you regret. It's draining, and you just become curious, right? It's like sober curious, like, you know, it's a term we hear a lot about. Just people who are just like, you know, they're kind of in that middle area. We call it like gray area. It's like you're not like someone's drinking every day, and you know you're often having more than one or two, but you're kind of in that middle, and it's like you're curious because they're either hearing about it, seeing about it, friends that are deciding not to drink, like you, or friends like me who aren't drinking every weekend. So it's like, okay, what is it about? And they're curious, but I think what really holds them back is that it's the fear. It's like what happened, because, you know, look, we've been drinking for decades, right? We talked about how normal it is to drink and to celebrate and to have a drink. So it's like, if you remove that, it's like scary. It's like, what does my life look like? What will my friends think of me? What will my partner think of me? Because, you know, we've had so many good bonding experiences. All of these, it's fear. It's the unknown. That's what it is. We fear the unknown. So that's why it's like, there's so many, I don't want to, again, sound too preachy, but there's so many benefits, right? There's so many incredible benefits. So it's like, that's why it's become so passionate for me to talk about, is because I know the impact that it's made on my life. And look, I am now a father. I have a 4-year-old daughter. And that was a huge why for me. Like, it was strong enough that I knew I wanted to be a dad. Not just any dad. I really wanted to be super present. And, you know, my father struggled with alcohol. He was a great man, an amazing dad, an amazing man. But he struggled, and like my parents would argue around his drinking, and I grew up with that. And I just knew I didn't want to put my daughter through what kind of I went through with that. And it became enough of a why for me to like, okay, maybe you should make some changes here. And it's, like I said, it's been the best thing. I'm you know, I'm not a perfect dad, but I am very present, and I'm not a perfect husband. My wife and I, we still argue, but we don't argue about my drinking, because when we were dating before we got married, we argued a lot about my drinking. Like, it wasn't all of our fights, but it was a good chunk of them. Like, you drank, like, what did you do? Like, too much, or I go out, come home way too late, that kind of thing. So, and even at work in my career now, I'm just, you know, I just feel more present, and I'm more, have more clarity, more purpose. Sprinkle in this running thing that I've discovered. Is just like, I feel like my best self. Like I am a better version of myself today than I was, you know, definitely 7 years ago, without a doubt. But I feel like I'm getting better almost every day. I'm just getting, you know, 1% better, a little bit better. And it gives me all of the reason to not, you know, want to drink today, and to just keep going on this path that I'm on.
I love that, man. Do you have any like distinct memories of like when you were in the peak of that, like maybe like fights or like things you did that you know, like, oh, why did I do that? Like, was there any, I guess like just distinct memories of like, well, I might have a problem here. Yeah.
There's a lot of them, Jeremy. I have a lot of distinct memories that I you know, have addressed and you know, I've come a long way from, and I keep those kind of close to me because they help me a lot in those moments where maybe I can get a little complacent. And it's like, hey, Luke, congratulations. You've done this. You've done a good stretch here. You can have a beer today. Like, you could have a drink. Like, I'll be on, you know, walking down the street, people are drinking on a patio, or like, you know, whatever it is. And I see it, and I'm just like, you could have one, you know? And, you know, my mind just goes into like, kind of plays that scenario out a little bit. Like, okay, you have one. What does that look like? Okay. Sit down, have the drink. Okay, cool. What does that look like? Okay, then you may want to have a second. What does that look like? And I kind of just like play that out a bit. And then it's like, why would I do that? You know, so I keep those stories a lot in my mind. But I, you know, I want to share maybe one of them with you, is that, so I played a lot of hockey growing up. Like, that was my sport, hockey, right?
Dude, same here. I love it.
You play it? Yeah?
Yeah, that was my main sport.
Oh, wow. See? Jeremy, we have a lot in common, man. That's cool. Yeah, so hockey was my main sport. And, you know, played since I was skating since I was 2. Hockey was my life, right? And so after school and all this, we started playing men's league, right? And good group of guys, pretty much guys that grew up playing. It was a lot of fun, and it was men's league. It wasn't like professional or anything like that, but we had made it pretty far in this one tournament. It was becoming like a national men's league. It sounds kind of ridiculous talking about it. It was like a big game back in the day, right? And I had gone out the night before, and I had continued partying into the next morning, and we had the game, and I had to email the team, let them know, or I lied that I wasn't feeling well. So that's why I couldn't come to the game. And it was, a big game back then. And I was still partying. I was still at the after hours partying. And it's like, I think about that. It's like I prioritized my party side of me over what I actually really enjoyed to do. Like a passion. I loved hockey, right? So it's like, when I think about that, it's like, it was slowly taking over and becoming more important than other things in my life. So that was just, I'll give you one. I have a lot of others, but I'll leave you with that. So you played hockey too, eh, Jeremy? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I played from same as you. I guess 2.5 years old. My parents got me into it, and then I played until I played 2 years in college, just like club level, like D2 club, and then so from like 2 until like 22, if roughly, so about 20 years or so.
Wow.
I love it, man. Dude, I think that hockey is like, something about it just teaches you how to have grit. Like, you have to have teamwork, responsibility, respect for each other. I think more than anything is like the grit that's required in that sport.
Yeah.
It's such a gritty sport, and it's like, I'm sure you can attest to this, but like, I still use a lot of the stuff I learned from hockey growing up in my day-to-day life, of just like, I don't know, just suck it up and do it. Like, just having that mindset of, it doesn't matter how hard it is or what happens, like, just, put your nose to the grindstone and get it done.
Yeah, I love it. Hockey's been like a huge foundation for me with my sports and stuff. Like you said, grit and, that camaraderie and the team sport aspect, and, doing it for your teammate, right? Like, I love that. So that's cool. Yeah, I know. That's why it's like, I really identified as a hockey player. So when I didn't kind of, make it as far as I thought, I've done a lot of reflection about that. And, like I played AAA, which was like the highest level of minor hockey. I was captain of pretty much every team I played for. I was really identified as a hockey player. And then when I didn't, take it to the next level, call it, play, school and stuff, but I didn't really go much further. It's easy to say, okay, yeah, cause I'm not very tall, 5'9". So it's like, that's not why. It's like, I feel honestly that this is how I look at things. Okay. And I'm totally fine that I didn't make the hockey thing. I have a great career. I'm loving what I'm doing now, but it's like running. The reason why I'm so passionate about running and why I love it so much, and I can't wait to talk more about this with you, is that I feel like running has become my redemption. And by that, I mean hard work wins every time. Talent alone only goes so far, because with my hockey, I was very talented, right? I was a great player, but I was lazy, never was in the gym, never showed up to practice, like rarely on time. I was cocky. I was a bit arrogant with my hockey. So I didn't make it. If I didn't go further, I feel like because of that. So it's like, for me now, running is my redemption. And by that is like your talent only goes so far. It's about showing up consistent, the right plan, the right environment, and just consistently working at it. And I think about my daughter, and it's just like the example I want to be for her is that it doesn't matter how good you are naturally. It's how bad do you want it, and how much are you working at this thing. So I always think about that. This is my redemption to myself, to prove that I can do things, that I didn't think possible. And I do that because I continuously show up for myself, and that's when you see results. So
Dude, that resonated so much with me just now. Because I mean, everybody growing up, no matter what sport it is, it's like you love it, you're obsessed with it. You're like, oh, I want to be a professional athlete. Like I want to go to the NHL. I mean, I think any kid has that dream. And then it's like as you get older, you start to get more separated, into like high school, college, and that's where you really, people either stand out with talent and hard work, or they fall off a little bit, and then they play, men's league, or they like drop in hockey or whatever. And it's it can be tough because everybody has that dream at one point. And so if you're the one that doesn't end up making it to that next level, it's tough. And dude, I think 100% the same thing in my situation. That's so funny. Like I was captain of the high school team for like 3 or 4 years, and dude, I didn't strength train. I didn't like, my nutrition was non-existent. I just ate like fast food and like processed stuff from the store. Just didn't care because I was just like, oh, I'll just show up to practice, go through the motions. I'll rely on my talent that I naturally have, and the years of experience, and not put any extra effort in. And then sure enough, like my friends that put in the extra work, they would go to the like open skates, and they would go to the gym and focus on nutrition, and they do all this stuff at home. They're the ones that ended up playing college hockey. Yeah, and dude, that's so crazy. Our stories are so similar. It's so wild.
Yeah.
And it's and I think running now, well, I feel like I'm just having like an epiphany right now from all the stuff you just said. Because it's like, running is a way, like you're solely in control of like your times, your effort, like, and it's a direct correlation of how much work you put in to the results. And it's like, it's the same as everything else, but running is such a tangible way to experience all that.
So well put, Jeremy. So well put. I love that, because I also really got into the gym, like after hockey, into after university, I started working out a lot, and I was in the gym probably 5-6 days a week. Like even when I was kind of like quote unquote struggling with alcohol, I was still working out like crazy, and I was pretty fit in the sense of like looking fit. Like I was, looking probably with my shirt off. I 1000% looked better back then than I look now. So I was really into the gym a lot, but there's something about, measuring running, the objective part of running. It's like you said, you get what you give, and it's like you see that progress and those times, and it's you versus you, that I just fell in love with. I was like, wow. Because when I was going to the gym, like I wasn't necessarily like, because I respect a lot of people who do CrossFit. That's really cool. And there's like the CrossFit Games, and that's very much like a competition. But for me, I was just like going to the gym, like curling my arms. Like I was doing like arms a lot, and I would like, oh, look at my bench press. I'm doing this. Wow, so cool. And I took a lot. Like, that's really cool. But now it's like, I love the fact that it's like I can measure what I'm doing more, and not to mention the amazing community that's attached to running. Right? Like I've yet to meet a runner that I do not get along with. Like that's a fact. It's like we're all the same. It doesn't matter if you're qualifying for these races or not. You do 5Ks or you're doing casual, like you're putting your running shoes on, you're getting outside. You're my kind of person, and I am waving at you when I'm passing you on the trails. I don't care what you're doing. I'm saying hi to you because I respect you so much. And, I love the running community.
Dude, that you said it right there at the end, is the respect. There's like this mutual respect. Even like, I've talked to like elite marathon runners that are like qualifying for the Olympics, and they respect somebody like me who's running a marathon like 40 minutes slower. And it's like, there's this, it doesn't matter what time you're running, because it's like running is hard for everybody, no matter how fast you're running. It's like, it's hard. And I think it humbles us, and it gives you like this appreciation and perspective for like, like the work to reward ratio. And, again, no matter what times you're running, it's all relative to each person.
100%.
I love that, man. What got you into running initially? Was it like before you became sober, or was it afterwards?
No, it was all afterwards. Like I, still played kind of men's league hockey. I was still in the gym, 5-6 days a week. I did a lot of sports, skied and, tennis and all kind. I love sports, right? But it wasn't until 2 years into my recovery, or three, almost 3 years into my recovery, that I had a really good friend who was into Ironman. He was into Ironman, and he was also sober with me. And I kind of saw what he was doing, and he was saying like, look, I think you would be a good runner. Like you're very, disciplined with your gym and all that. And it's like, you should try some running. So I did I was doing a couple 5, like running a bit on my own. And then there was a local 10-kilometer race. It was on Mother's Day, 2019. And I had trained a bit, right? I was starting to run, had no idea what I was doing, but I ran my first race, and I was just like, wow, first time wearing a bib, just the energy of the people. I just felt I was hooked. I fell in love with it. And it was such an amazing experience. And then my friend, he says, you should probably do a half marathon. And I was like, half marathon? Are you insane? Like, that's crazy. That's more than double the distance. And like, there's no way. Like, how am I going to do that? And he's like, no, Luke. Like, here. So I found a plan online, and I trained, pretty hard, very hard at that. And then I ran my first half marathon in October of 2019. And I was like, wow, this was really interesting.
What time did you run, if you don't mind me asking?
I ran it in 1:29, like 18 or something, sub 1:30.
Did you have the goal of like, oh, I want to qualify for Boston after this, so let's see if we can do this?
So so I did that. I was like, this is really cool. And I was like, looking at the times, like, that's actually that's a really, really good time. And I was like, that's like, I worked my ass off. Don't get me wrong. I trained a lot, and I was like, that's a really good time. And my friends were like, look, for your first half marathon, that's really good. Like, you should be proud. I'm like, okay, yeah. So then COVID happened, right? That's 2019, October. I ran the half, the Toronto Waterfront Marathon, or half marathon and half. And then COVID happened in 2020. And what I did was I totally tripled down on my running. And I thought this was such a great opportunity. While the world is shutting down, and probably a lot of people are pulling back on their training because there's no races in 2020, I was like, Luke, you're going to go all in. So I went all in on my training. I got a running coach. I was running, following his plan, whatever he had me doing, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. Started running, 6 days a week. And I just fell in love with this thing called running, because it felt like it just brought out the better side of me. And I loved that goal that I was chasing. And it just, kept me accountable in so many other areas in my life, routine, all that great stuff. But I doubled down on my training. So I just went all in.
Dang.
And I was loving every second of it.
I love that. Do you feel like it gave you like a little bit more purpose? Like, after you became sober, did you feel like you needed something to like kind of fill that time?
Yes.
And like fill that void of like from before you were sober?
100%. Because I was sober about just over 2 years before I got into running. And I always kind of thought to myself, it's like, look, cool, like, good for you. You're not drinking, and you're seeing a lot of benefits, but like, what are you doing with your life? That's, how have you done, like, what have you done to kind of stand out about that? And I was thinking, yeah, okay, I'm sleeping better and all these things, like, but this running became that purpose. It's like, I need to go to bed earlier, or I can't stay out late because I have a long run in the morning. And I just love that. And then I met a lot of really cool people who were also like runners, right? Friends or different people I would meet. And it's like, I fell in love with that whole community part of running. And then my identity now, like I said, is a sober runner, a sober marathoner. Like I love what I'm doing. And it's not about being the best. It's not about, doing all these things, but I love it. I love the, what it does to my mindset, and the lessons that I learned constantly about myself on the experience, like wanting to quit, and the pain, and the mindset aspect of running. I feel like Jeremy, it's very, very much like mindset, mind over matter.
Yeah.
And I love that. And now that I like I said, I train like crazy. And then I had a goal to qualify for Boston. That was like a goal, right? It's like, okay, let's do this thing. And I worked my ass off for about 1.5 years, running like crazy. And then there was a very small local, it's an inaugural marathon. It's like a small town. There was like no marathons happening, 2021. Still nothing, but there was this local one, and it said it was a qualified race for Boston, and I was like, I got to do this. So I signed up, and I trained like crazy, and I had a good day, and I qualified, and I was like, wow, like I can't believe I did that. And it was like that was around the time that I started being open about my sobriety, because like I said, I was in the closet. I was very ashamed of my sobriety. But then when I paired it with, okay, I'm thinking about the story now. Luke's been sober for 5 years, and now he's done something with his life. Now he became a runner, never ran. Now he qualified for Boston. Like what a story that is. So I was like, Luke, this is the time to share your story. So I was like, how do I do that? I couldn't think of a scarier way to do it than to do it on LinkedIn, because all my socials were private. And LinkedIn, I worked for this global company, this big company. Nobody knew in the office I was sober, or very few knew I was sober. So I was like, I want to let everyone know at the same, like I'm ready now. Like I'm ready to just let people know. So I went on LinkedIn, made a public post, had no idea what was going to happen. And it was so liberating just getting that off my chest. Like, okay, Luke, like one, accepting and being proud of myself, and then two, letting people know, getting it off my chest, being open. It was the best thing that I just felt so relieved. And that's when this whole new identity came in, this being proud of myself, and it's just really paved the way, like just being so transparent and seeing the feedback and getting people very supportive, and more importantly than that, a lot of people who kind of related to what I was going through, but weren't talking about it, and were perhaps ashamed of it and all these things. And it just really propelled me into kind of this person I am today.
That's amazing, dude. Do you remember what the LinkedIn post said?
Yeah, it was pretty short and sweet. And I went back and forth about doing it. I was terrified about doing it. I went back and forth, but, it was, I forget exactly what it said, but I had a picture of my daughter sitting on my lap with a little sign that my wife made, and it said whatever days and 5 years sober. And then I also had a picture of my qualifying thing for Boston. So it's like the two pictures together.
Oh, that's cool.
And just my daughter on my lap. At the time, she was obviously, doesn't know what that means, but she's just smiling. And I look at that picture, and it just reminds me of like how it could have been different. You know what I mean? It very easily, my story could very easily have been different, very different.
Yeah, man.
Maybe she, you know what I mean? It's like, I like to not take it for granted and think about that. So that means a lot to me.
Was having your daughter, was that kind of the turning point to becoming sober? Because you said, how old is she now?
So she'll be 4 in September. So in 2019, yeah. So I was over 2 years sober. So she was like a big reason of why I got sober. Okay. So I got sober before she was born, which is by far my greatest accomplishment, was being able to like get my act together before she was born, and to see her now, and the relationship we have together, it is the most precious thing in my life. My wife's pretty cool too, but you know what I mean? She's the most precious thing in my life. And it's interesting, not interesting, but I'm very proud of this too, is so my daughter will be 4, and she associates daddy as being this runner, right? Because she sees I'm running a lot, coming home. She came with us to Boston. She's been to every single one of my races.
Nice.
She sees me running, and she knows what the unicorn, the Boston, like she always says Boston, but like she knows all about it. And she's done 3 races.
Oh,
like
wow.
Kids races, like super fun, whatever, like 1 kilometer, 1 mile races. But
that's awesome.
She's about to do her 4th in September. And she's just like, she loves to run. And I feel like I'm a big part of that. Like the example that I've been with her, like, I was pushing her on one of those Thule chariots for a long time. And anyways, when I see her kind of embracing, not that I'm pushing her to be a runner, but just like the being active as a family is such a great feeling to see her kind of enjoying that. So that's been very a lot of fun for me to see.
That's so cool, dude. That's that leading by example as a parent. I don't have kids or anything, but I can see it all the time of like, have you seen the Tiger Woods documentary?
Yes.
Where his dad would like
Yeah.
set Tiger in like his like high chair, and his dad would
Yeah.
just sit there and putt or like take swings for like hours,
That's
and
right.
just like let him soak it up because he's a sponge, and it's like he might have pushed on him a little bit more to. I mean, that's how he created Tiger Woods, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's like yeah, just leading by example, showing your kids what can happen like when you put in the work towards something, and it's probably even more rewarding. It has to be more rewarding for you when you can see them like accepting it and like taking it on, and like they want to do it as well. I don't know if we ever plan on having kids, but like if we ever do, that's definitely something I want to be so intentional about, is like always being active and showing them how to eat right and do, you know, exercising and all this stuff. So that's amazing that you're having the influence on her.
Oh, thank you. And it's a lot of fun. And my wife is not a runner, but we do a lot of things as a family because, look, you know, marathon training is very time consuming, a lot of time away from the family, like long runs over 3 hours. So it's like what I try to do, especially in the summer, is I include them. So my wife's on her bike,
Nice.
and either she's pulling Luna on the Thule chariot or I'm pushing her. So we're doing it together, and then we'll have a picnic. Like we'll go at a park and we'll pick up, you know, whatever we want, and then we'll eat. Like we'll make a whole day out of this thing, and just to be with them and to be outside, it's the best thing.
Dude, that's
I
so
can't
cool.
think of anything better.
Dude, those will be like core memories for her. Like, I mean, I know she's 4, and I'm sure she probably won't remember the majority of it, but
Right.
there's got to be like little core moments in there where she's like, "Hey, I remember my dad used to like take us on his runs with him," and it's like,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's just like I said, it could have been a lot different for sure. It could have been different, and I'm just, you know, just grateful for, you know, kind of what I've done. And I that's again going back to like my purpose, right? It's you know, being the best version of myself, but more important than that to me, it's kind of giving back and showing to others that you can also make some changes in your life that are going to make some powerful impact on not just yourself. Because like, look, you know, you have to put yourself first. Like I'm not didn't get sober for, yeah, I said my daughter, but it was really more about me being able to be that father that I want to be. But that's why I'm so excited to talk to you, especially Jeremy, you know, with the impact you're making, the leadership, you know, the thought leadership approach that you have to everything you're doing is I want to, you know, say, hey, you can make some changes too. And you don't need to, quote unquote, hit that rock bottom or have, you know, real troubles at home with your family or different things like that. Like, you want to be a better athlete, you will become a better athlete by taking a break from alcohol. That's a fact. You want to be a better parent, you will be a better parent, a fact, without alcohol. And it's, you know, we're not saying that you're a bad athlete now. We're not saying you're a bad parent now. No way. You could be great, but you'll be even better.
Yeah.
I heard that from Andy, this other guy that I follow, who's big in the alcohol-free movement, and I just love everything he says. And he said that, I was like, yes, you know. So
It's like
share that.
It's like a life enhancer when you become sober, right?
Yeah, it's a superpower. It really becomes a superpower.
That's amazing. I love it. So you qualified for Boston first marathon. That's incredible, dude. Do you know how many people? I tried to do that my first one and I missed it by like 54 seconds or something. But dude, it's got to be such a small percentage of people that have been able to do that. So that alone is very impressive. Outside of all the other things you've done.
It was my third time ever wearing a race bib. It was my third ever race. So I did 10K, half marathon, marathon.
Oh my god!
And it sounds really like, okay, cool, but like, I'll be the first to admit, natural talent did not get me there. No way. I worked my ass off, right? I showed up when I didn't want to. It was snowing outside, blizzard outside. I'm tired. I was up late with Luna. Okay, I'm showing up. I'm putting my shoes on, and I'm getting out the front door.
What do you think was harder, qualifying for Boston, running that first marathon, or finding sobriety?
That's a great question. I feel like they are both kind of the same. And by that, I mean they are both extremely difficult. They're both very, very hard. And they both challenge you like crazy. And that's why I feel like they're the same, because, you know, they're not only hard, but they are both worth it. Like that feeling, crossing that line, looking at my watch and saying, I did it. And that feeling of, you know, just that how you feel when you're not partaking in that thing that was not bringing out your best, and you just see the rewards. For example, my daughter, and just being so, that relationship we have, it's so worth it. It's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. So it's like those two things, I can't put one over the other. It's the same thing. Like I literally view my running and my sobriety, they go hand in hand. They make me better. Bottom line, they make me better.
I love that, dude. Dude, such a cool story, man. So glad you're here sharing it with us. It's like I just love stories like this, and there's definitely something because I've had a couple other people on the podcast and friends now that like they had drug addictions for years and years, and then they got into running, and they're just like their whole lives took a turn because of the running and like finding sobriety. And it's like there's just so much power in running and exercise, and like it just provides a purpose in your life, I think, and it makes you feel good. You get like endorphins and dopamine from it, but it's all so healthy for you. I think running, like I'm definitely biased because running is like a huge part of my life now, but like there's just something about it that I think everybody could benefit from. And I wish everybody in some capacity would like run. I think I saw a stat that like 15% of, I don't know if it was Americans or humans run, but it's like I wish it was 100%, because I think the world would be such a better place if everybody 100%. Just ran a little bit, because it does something to your mind.
100%. I'm a big believer in that. If more people ran, the world would be a better place. 1,000. It'd be a more patient place. It'd be a more positive place. It would be a lot better. And it doesn't mean everyone needs to be a marathoner. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's just literally getting your shoes on, getting out the front door, walking, hiking, like just getting outside, moving your body is a great thing that you can do.
100%, man. What does a day in the life look like now? You're training for Chicago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I know you are too, right?
Yeah. What's your goal time for Chicago?
So I've been nursing a bit of an injury the past month.
Oh man,
which sucks because
yeah.
I was getting really into it. My mileage was increasing quite a bit. My coach had me. I was going to be doing 100-mile weeks.
Dang.
Yeah, but I didn't get to do that because I got injured just before that. So I topped up at I think 138 kilometers, which is about I think 80 miles, something like that.
That sounds right.
And then I got this like knee pain on one of my long runs. I had a throbbing knee. I was kind of avoiding it for maybe a week or so, and I had to stop my long run, and it's a psoas strain, so it's like kind of like my hip and flexor, and all so I've been nursing it. I haven't been running a bunch, and I'm really trying to do it right, like not push it, listen to everybody, the advice I'm getting, and the physio and all that. So I did a 19-kilometer run yesterday, so that's about 12 miles. Near the end, I felt a bit of pain. I'm just at this point. I just really want to run. Like if I can show up on race day and run, I'll be happy. Like I've accepted the fact that it's not going to be what I thought it was going to be. Like I want it to be a personal best and all that. I've accepted that it's probably not going to be that, and I'm okay with that. I just want to show up. Right, the family's going. We're driving to Chicago. We got the hotel. We're all ready to go. So like. I'm gonna be there, but I'm not gonna be able to probably do the time that I want to do.
Yeah, that's too bad. Injuries suck, man.
The worst. So I know you're trying to do. I think I saw 2:45, right?
That's the plan. It's hard trying to train in Texas. This is my first time training in the summer in Texas. I'm from Wyoming originally, from the mountains. And it's so hot. It's like 100+ degrees every day. Fahrenheit, so that's I think like 30 or 40 Celsius.
Yeah, that's hot.
And humid,
Super hot.
it's humid as shit. So it's like
Ugh.
it's like rare if I can actually touch marathon pace, which is tough. So it's like everything's backed off by like 20, 30 seconds a mile. So that's been challenging, but yeah, 2:45 is the goal. But dude, I'm always on the side, which sounds like you are too. Like everybody I coach or in my own training, like I'm always on the side of like sacrifice fitness in order to feel good for the race. Like the times are fun to chase after and stuff, but it's like you're always gonna be much better off feeling good going into a race, like by training less or taking, reducing mileage rather than like trying to gain more fitness, but then making an injury worse and just feeling like shit. Like that's not gonna do anybody any good.
Yeah, overtraining. Yeah, big time. Big time.
What did you run Boston 2023 this year?
No, so I ran it in 2022.
Okay.
And I struggle. I mean, it's a heck of a course, obviously, right?
Man,
it's my second ever
dude.
marathon, and I went from this small town marathon. I think there might have been like 300 runners. There were no spectators. Like you're running, there's like nobody there. Going from that to Boston, right? It's like holy smokes,
Boston is. Man. I want to hear your experience about it.
Oh, it was amazing. Like start to finish. As soon as we got into Boston, we drove. My mother-in-law was with us, my wife, my daughter, the four of us. We got a room and it was the city is just like electric as soon as you get there. Everyone's in their Boston. You can feel it. Oh my goodness. Like everyone's got their gear on and like you just can feel it. And I was just in awe the entire time. And I just was like smiling ear to ear, got obviously super emotional. It was just such an amazing day. Probably one of the best days of my life. Just like the family, I had some friends who lived in Boston. We walked to their place. They lived right by the finish line. Like it was just a perfect day. Such an amazing experience. I was a bit slower than I wanted to be. My first marathon was 3:01:40, and then I did 3:03:10. So it wasn't. I wanted to be under 3, and I also had a bit of shin splints leading up to that. So it was kind of the last 2 months weren't perfect, but it didn't matter. Like I was just out there and just I can't wait to. So now it's like. My thing that I'm trying to do now is I want to do all the world majors. That's my kind of goal now. So I did Boston, right? Going to do Chicago, and then I qualified for New York for next year. So next year I want to do New York. That's a plan, and then I want to do the rest of them.
I love that. I'm doing the same exact thing. That's cool, dude. Yeah, because I did Boston this year, Chicago, obviously, and then I think London in April. My goal is to do 2 per year for the next.
Oh wow!
So finish it within 3 years.
That's wow.
How'd you qualify for New York? Was that did you do it with the half or the full?
No, I did I did another marathon after that. I did the Toronto marathon last October, and I did 250.
I know.
250 58.
Dude, that's a big PR.
Yeah. No. No, actually after Boston I did 3:03 in Boston. Then I did another one in Toronto and I did 2:55. And then I did 250.
Wow.
So I've done 4 marathons. And so my 250 qualified me for New York because I needed sub 255. So that's a plan to do that one. And then, see, if I wasn't for my injury, Jeremy, I would have been chasing you pretty much we would have been running together for a good chunk of that run, which would have been really, really cool after, getting to know each other here and then running side by side, taking turns, leading, that's
Dude, well, maybe we do that in New York next year.
Yeah. So you'll do New York too, right? You said London and then New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan.
So the plan is we'll definitely be doing that. But yeah, so you've also done very well with running too, right? Like you haven't been running for all that long too.
No, this will be, I think by the end of this year, will be my 5th year of getting into it, and like staying consistent with it. Yeah, I've like really fallen in love with ultras and like trail running.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's so much fun. It's so different from the road.
How would you describe it?
It's like, obviously we've talked about how mental running is. It's like even more mental when you're on the trails and doing ultras because typically you're going a little bit slower. It's like less physically demanding because you can't really push the paces because the races are so long. So like your average heart rate, you're mostly like zone 2, low zone 3 the whole time. So you're not physically like just super taxed, but mentally it requires so much patience. Like the longest I've got is 50 miles. And I'm doing my first 100 miler next summer, but it just requires so much patience, like because you're out there for 12 hours to do like 50 miles, or 100 milers is like 24 hours. So it's like to be mentally focused and patient, and like, and it's like they call it life in a day when you do 100 miles, because you're experiencing all these ups and downs, and like you want to quit, but then you feel good, and then you want to quit again. It's like, it's such a crazy, it's a very good metaphor for life, I feel like.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by that, by ultras. And I think that's kind of my next, so you're doing like marathon training and you're doing the ultras together. Cause I thought they kind of had to be a little different, like separated a little bit. Right. So that's interesting that you're doing them together.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily, it hasn't been the most intentional marathon build for Chicago, just because I basically replaced like a lot of my like long easy runs with like these mountainous runs, because it's a lot more time on the feet in the mountains. I think from a muscular standpoint, like running through the mountains is a lot harder because it requires more power. That's where the strength training comes in even more.
Right.
So I'm still getting in like a lot of the weekly speed work, a lot of like long marathon workouts, but kind of just replacing the long easy runs with like more mountainous runs.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude, I love trail running. Do you have any desire to get into
No, absolutely. That's definitely something that I think about. But I was always under the thought that I kind of had to do them separately. So my mindset was, let's bear through these marathons and get you the the worlds, and work my ass off. And then I was like, okay, when I'm done that, then I'll get into ultras. But it's interesting to hear your take on that. that I can do them kind of like together, right?
Yeah, I think that
I haven't thought about that.
I think they both complement each other really well, because like obviously the speed work, increasing VO2 max, lactate threshold for marathon stuff, that's only going to make you just more generally fit. But then also, doing trail runs, it requires more muscular power.
Yeah, the elevation, stuff like that.
Yeah, so your legs are stronger. I think they just complement each other really well. But it's just like anything. It's like running and lifting. Like, yes, they complement each other. But if you want to like get really, really good at one thing, you have to hone in and focus on that thing.
Right.
So it's like, depends on your goals. Like if you aren't trying to like, run 2:30 marathons, you could definitely mix in ultras and trail. But if you really want to focus in on that one thing, then you kind of have to just dial in on that thing.
Right.
But yeah, dude, Boston, I want to hear more about your experience at Boston. Like, what do you think of the hills, Heartbreak Hill, Newton Hills?
Oh, it was very challenging. It was very difficult, and it's surprising. Like, you hear a lot about the hills, right? And all those hills, because we took the bus tour, like a couple days before the race. So like we took that. I don't know if you did that.
I did.
I took the tour, and there's like a tour guide who ran Boston like 35 times, and he's making jokes, and it was cool to like see the course a bit, and I was really preparing for that. But it's like, for me, the surprising thing were the downhills.
Yeah,
right? It's like you think this is going to be easy. You're gonna maybe, I don't know, bank some time, or just it's going to be easy. But I feel like the downhills really made it so much harder with those uphills, because the pain of like I felt like maybe I was going too slow or too fast at times. I had a hard time with the downhills because I didn't really train enough downhills, I think, because it's a different running mechanism, downhills, and I felt like by the time I was up to doing those hills, my legs were pretty toasty. And once we finished that, I was just, my legs, like my breathing was okay, but just my legs felt like concrete blocks.
Yeah. The downhill,
I hadn't experienced that feeling before, really, like that.
The downhill is tough because it just wrecks your quads and your knees. And it's also like, it's hard because you get used to the downhill. So then when you get on the uphill, you're like, oh shit, it's like a totally different, you said mechanism. Because you're basically braking when you're running downhill. So it's so much harder on your body.
And so I wore like a Team Canada singlet.
Oh, nice.
And it was so cool because I felt like I was in the Olympics, because, spectators just want to cheer at something, right? So they'd be like, go Canada. I must have heard "Go Canada" a lot of times, like a lot of times, and I kept saying it. Like I was kept like in my mind, just playing little games, like I'm in the Olympics, "Go Canada," right? So it was a really cool experience, and like I said, just crossing that finish line and seeing my daughter, my wife there with me, and just being there together, and then we ordered pizza at my friend's place. It was just like such an incredible day. Met so many amazing people, and it's just such a cool thing. Such a cool thing to experience.
Dude, yeah. What about the left on Boylston? Did you get emotional during that section?
I did, and I kept thinking, like, don't collapse, because I'd seen somebody just before that who just collapsed, like his body just shut down, and I always kept saying to myself, do not do that, don't do that. And I was like so scared of that, because my legs were really hurting, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to go anymore, and so that was on my mind. Just don't, you can't quit now, like you can't stop now. And then just hearing the crowds,
dude, so loud,
was insane. Yeah,
that's a surreal feeling. Like you're coming in, you're like, one, you're just ecstatic that the marathon's almost over because you're in so much pain. But two, like there's just all these people. It's so loud because it's like in the downtown, so it's like echoing off the buildings.
Yeah.
Everybody's just screaming at you. It's kind of a like euphoric, a very surreal feeling.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
it really is. And I like I said, I haven't done many marathons, but I hear that's probably one, like it's hard to replicate that, right? It's unique. Right. It's the history in Boston and how you're running through so many different towns. Really, really cool. But I'm excited for Chicago. I've heard a lot of good things about Chicago too. Running through the city, it's a pretty flat course. I heard, the city's very supportive of the event, and just it sounds like it's going to be just as of an epic experience as Boston.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I've heard a lot of the same things. Do you know what corral you're in?
I should check that.
I'm sure you're in A.
I'm in A. I'm in A.
Okay.
But are there different numbers to A?
I think it's just like A, B, C, D. I think.
Okay. So I'm in A. Okay. You're in A as well?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Heck yeah. Maybe we'll run like the first mile together or something.
Yeah, for sure. And then you could just go on off and sail into the sunset.
Dude, something might kick in and you're like, oh, dude, we're just hanging on the rest of the time. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to meeting you. I can't wait to meet you at the event. And it's exciting. I'm really excited for that, and continue on this journey and trying to keep showing up, trying to be my best self, and trying to hopefully inspire a couple people along the way. It just gives me a lot of joy.
I love that, dude. We're also doing a shakeout run the day before, so if you're there, you don't have anything else going on, we'll probably do like 2 to 3 miles. Get a whole bunch of people together.
I'd love to do that. So what we're doing, because we're driving, and the hotels are crazy expensive. So we have 2 nights, I guess the Saturday and the Sunday, at one of these hotels, like right smack downtown, like pretty much walking distance. And then the other 2 nights, I couldn't, because I kind of booked late. I couldn't get it all at the same place. So we're gonna stay a little bit outside, like kind of maybe suburbs. I actually haven't booked that yet because we're driving. We'll be a bit more flexible. So I gotta still do that, but absolutely a shakeout run. Absolutely. I'd love to join you and to do that.
That'd be cool, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I think it's so inspirational. Like I said at the beginning, like I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And just showing people like what can happen if you commit to doing hard things and trying to make your life better. Because there's just so many positives that come out of this kind of stuff. And again, nobody has to go and run a marathon, but just like do something that's going to challenge you and that, is going to make you healthier and make you a better person. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us, dude.
Jeremy, all my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Great to connect with you. And I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. Keeping it real and being authentic. And you're helping a lot of people too. You're inspiring a lot of people, myself included. Like I see what you're doing and I'm just like, wow, this is so cool what Jeremy's doing, the way, and more importantly, the way you're doing it. So nothing but respect for you. And like I said, I can't wait to meet you in face-to-face in Chicago.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for the kind words. Where's the best place for people to find you if they want to reach out?
So my Instagram handle is marathon, the number 2, sobriety. So marathon to sobriety, all one word. My wife came up with that. It's like sobriety is a marathon. It's a one day at a time journey, similar to my sobriety. One damn day at a time. So marathon of sobriety. Also, like I mentioned, I do alcohol-free life coaching. So I'm very passionate about helping people, see things in themselves that they don't necessarily see. So I have a website as well, and I'm doing alcohol-free coaching. I'm also, a big part of my journey is running. So I also do running coaching. I'm also very realistic too. I'm probably not the best running coach out there, but people who are looking to find something else, like another hobby or passion, very, very big on the running. So I help people kind of discover running or work on improving. So a big part of my focus is lifestyle type thing, right? To make this last. So they can look at me on that as well.
I love that, dude. Don't be too modest with the run coaching stuff. Like, you've done 250 marathon, like, and in my opinion, like, who gives a shit what credentials you have or anything? Is like, as long as you've done the thing and like you put in the work, like, that's enough, I think.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Of course, man.
Thank you.
I love it. All right, dude. Well, thanks for coming on. This was a blast. I'll catch up with you later.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.